See, when you read the Bible, the Old Testament, you're reading it through the perspective of the writers, and they always thought everything was God. And that's still the mindset of some religious systems. If it happened, it must have been God. Now, I don't believe that, and I don't believe that we should literally be taking what they wrote and thinking that what they wrote is the truth, because they wrote from their own perspective. That's why they could say God told them to wipe out this whole race. He didn't. I don't believe God is any different in the Old Testament than he was in the New Testament. Their understanding of him was different, because they didn't differentiate between God and Satan or any. They all, well, that was God doing, that was Satan doing that for God. So any of the bad stuff was attributed to Satan, but it was God who was ordering him to do it from their perspective, because it was an undifferentiated view of creation, and a wrong view, because they didn't know God. That's the problem. They didn't have a relationship with him. They had a mediatorial relationship through a system which was developed called the law. So ultimately, I don't believe anything that paints God as anything other than love is a correct understanding. So some of that is our interpretation of what the Bible says in the Old Testament. Maybe we're taking things literal when they should be figurative and symbolic, or what they wrote was misinterpreted and they wrote through their own wrong understanding. And then we create systems of theology trying to understand what their things in and make it into something that understands God. Jesus came to put all those things right. He came to reveal what God was truly like. And he had to challenge their view of God. And they still struggled with it. I mean, even after 3 odd years with Jesus, they were still saying, well, shall we bring down fire from heaven on this village and destroy them? They still didn't get, God didn't like that. Because that was the picture of God was like. Well, Jesus was very clear. You ain't got it right here, guys. It's like, I am love. I'm not like that. God is not like that. I'm the Father of one. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. So most of these misunderstandings come because we have a Bible that we've taken as a textbook and a manual that we should follow. Well, the Old Testament wasn't even written to us. It was written to followers of another system of belief, which has ended. That whole system became obsolete, faded away. Jesus came to actually challenge their view of that. So you've heard it said, which was the rabbinical view of how they interpreted the Old Testament. You've heard it said, now I'm saying to you, this is the truth. You've heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Well, where did that come from? Not God. Moses introduced it to limit what they would do in their vengeance. You can't kill someone who's taken your tooth. Basically, that's literally what it's saying. Well, that was based on the fact of their wrong understanding of God. God never told them to take an eye for an eye. He said, if you're going to have this, you're limited. Moses said, you're limited in what you can do, because I know how stubborn you are. I'm telling you, you can't go beyond this limit. God didn't give them that system. They developed it because they didn't have a relationship with God in the way they were asked to. So a lot of what they wrote was written from that wrong understanding and wrong perspective. And then we've created another religion based on that called Christianity, trying to reconcile those Old Testament things and not really succeeding. So a lot of people is like, well, I just don't even want to think about that type of God, or, oh, God is two-faced, dualistic, and he might be good one day and bad the next. So you got to toe the line or look out, because it creates a God to be feared and a God you can't trust because he changes his mind and is variable. Well, God is totally dependable and totally unchanging. So we've got it wrong. They got it wrong in writing about it, and we got it wrong in interpreting it and turning a system based on it in a new covenant, which wasn't supposed to be based on an old covenant system, but the fulfillment of everything in Jesus as love. So all the law and the prophets are fulfilled in love. Well, that's, you don't really find the New Testament system working that way. Else you wouldn't have had Christendom, or people trying to force people to become believers in God by the sword. Because it's like, that's not love. But that's what they came out of. How? Because they used what the Old Testament said to put their version of God, who was one to be feared, who would punish them, and hence hell and all the other man-made constructs around a God who would torment and punish his children forever and ever, which is like, whoa, how wrong could that be? But we all believed it because we had a wrong view of God, mostly because the Christian system is based on two testaments, which they have to try and sort of work together, and they don't work together. Jesus ended the old to begin the new and fulfilled every promise in the old in the new, in himself. So everything is included in him. It's not to do with a system. There is no law. We're not under a law. We're living in a limitless abundance of grace, which is relational. You know, and that's the problem I think we face. So, oh, God flooded the earth. No. Sowing and reaping happened. They sowed violence into the earth, and the earth responded in releasing the waters of the earth and flooded the earth to get rid of the violence that was on it. That's what happened. But it's written as if God did it. Now, God knew what was going to happen, of course, and prepared a way out for them, an ark, so that there would be an ongoing sense of fruitfulness and government into the future, and so that the seed of woman would still come as Jesus. You know, if everyone had been destroyed in the flood, there would have been no Jesus, would there? Because there would have been no seed. But so there was a righteous seed that was unpolluted, which was Noah. You know, so you have all these sort of things that work together when you sort of look at it. Now, there are some who are completely, therefore, making what happened in the Old Testament as not literal, and it was all supposed to be figurative and symbolic. And there are people who are doing that today. I don't believe that is totally true. I do believe that some things did happen, as I do believe there was an Israelite people. I do believe that there were certain things that happened. I do believe there was a flood. But I do believe there can be figurative and symbolic meanings drawn from it that can be very helpful to understand things. I think a lot of those people who are now saying, well, there's no devil, there's no angels, there's no fallen angels, all of that, are saying that because they've never met them. They don't have a mystic experience. So they're rejecting the wrong view of God, and they're embracing a right view of God, but they're throwing out everything with that because they've not had the experience of the encountering heaven and encountering the angelic realms themselves. So they're going too far. The pendulum is swinging so far that it removes all of it to make it symbolic of our own mind, which I don't believe. I do believe you can interpret things and have helpful understanding about our own mind or our own body and being, but I don't think it's the only interpretation. And I think there are some things that did happen. Whether they happen exactly as they were written, probably not, because I think they were always written from a perspective which is framed by those who were writing it. You know, so they never really painted a bad picture of themselves. They always blamed somebody else generally, didn't they? So that's how they wrote it. And so I think that's really the story behind all that. God has not changed. He is love. Love doesn't destroy. Love restores. You know, so our interpretation needs to be framed in love and through Jesus, and not through any other religious system. Hi everyone, we're starting a Patreon page, patreon.com/freedomarc, and we would like to invite you to partner with us in taking the message of God's unconditional love, limitless grace, triumphant mercy to a bigger global audience.